Welcome to Astrology with Tess. Today's episode is called Saturn, Owning the Shadow to Master Your World.
Who knows what evil lurks in the hearts of men? The shadow knows.
In this episode, we are going down some dimly lit corridors of the human psyche. If we are lucky, we will encounter rich pockets of darkness. Digging deep enough, we may even find a diamond. Just as a diamond is one of the hardest minerals, shadow work is also hard. But Saturn teaches us that it is better to do the hard work than be hardened by the shadow. Saturn, the old goat, will teach us about the things we refuse to see in ourselves, and the cornucopia of benefits that come from giving our shadow selves a little love and understanding. Robert Louis Stevenson's The Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde was inspired by a nightmare that he called a fine bogey tale, which showed him the character of Mr. Hyde and got him thinking about the dark side of human personality. Dr. Jekyll, on a simple level, is a good man, admired in his profession. But after he drinks the potion, he turns into Mr. Hyde, a disgusting and murderous monster. In Jungian psychology, the shadow is an unknown dark side of the personality. This stands in contrast to the persona, which is everything we do identify with in order to present ourselves to others.
Hello, nice to meet you.
And be socially accepted.
Oh my God, I love Tom Cruise.
Yeah, no, me too.
This persona is a type of a mask, but a necessary one to use to get along in life. The shadow is the opposite of this. It's the repression of unwanted parts. It's what we don't bring into our personality. It's what we don't want others to see. It is our dark side, and largely unconscious to us. And from this unconscious and obscured position, it can actually control us to behave in ways that we'd rather not. Let's say you have a persona that is very fair and accommodating. Maybe you have Libra rising. People know you as the really nice person, never mean. But across the way lies the sign Aries in your 7th house of others. You see others as potential meanies.
Get out of my way.
And when they are mean,
I said move.
you feel defenseless as you attempt to still rely on your persona of being nice and fair. Meanwhile, this Aries archetype is an aspect of your shadow, yet you refuse to identify with it. And as you refuse, you become angrier on the inside, as the shadow gets darker. Jung said, "The less the shadow is embodied in the individual's conscious life, the blacker and denser it is." It's just looking for some acknowledgement. This fair Libran type must confront her Aries shadow and find the power within her to work on being more assertive.
I don't think so.
Her shadow will lighten, and her internal rage will soften. Other people will realize she is not a doormat, and occurrences of being picked on will dwindle. It's the tendency to deny our shadow that gets us into trouble. In astrology, denial falls under the planet Saturn. It is the dark corridor of the psyche. And as it stays dark, we are denied our wholeness. Mephistopheles is another dark and twisted character that appears in Johann Wolfgang von Goethe's masterpiece, Faust. Jung said one cannot meditate enough on Faust. In the story, Faust is a highly successful man, yet dissatisfied with his life, so he decides to sell his soul to the devil, Mephistopheles, in exchange for unlimited knowledge and worldly success. From this tale we get the term Faustian, which implies an ambitious person who surrenders moral integrity in exchange for worldly success. Saturn is the planet associated with worldly success. It is also the planet of wisdom, maturity, limitation, restraint, responsibility, and perhaps most importantly, authority. Selling your soul to the devil would be selling your authority, as in, you are no longer the author of your own life. Scary stuff. Aesop of Aesop's Fables famously said, "Beware lest you lose the substance by grasping at the shadow. If you are not aware of your dark side, it can control you, and you may lose the stuff of true substance in your life, like your soul." Substance, to be substantial, to be real. Saturn territory. Carl Jung said, "How can I be substantial if I do not cast a shadow? I must have a dark side if I am to be whole." Jung himself is a Leo, not blinded by the light. He said, "There is no light without shadow, and no psychic wholeness without imperfection." How can we get in touch with our shadows and start our path to wholeness? Let's look at astrology for some tips. Saturn is related to the signs Capricorn and Aquarius in the zodiac. Both of these signs lay opposite the signs that represent the luminaries, i.e., the sun and moon. Capricorn is opposite Cancer, the light of the moon, and Aquarius opposite Leo, the light of the sun. Cancer and the moon deal with our feelings and reactions. And wouldn't you know, it's a wonderful place to get a glimpse of the shadow. Strong feelings and reactions can be baffling. Questioning them can bring us face to face with the shadow. Why did that person's comment hurt my feelings so much? You dig deeper and find a terrible belief about yourself that you were completely unaware of harboring. A belief like, "I think I'm worthless," or on a smaller scale, "I'm not that fun to be around." And in that moment, your consciousness is bestowing light to the shadow, rendering it less powerful. There's more work to be done, but the awareness really kicks off the healing. Leo, the sun, deals with our radiance. Asking ourselves in what way we are denying our own radiance, or why we are denying our own radiance, is another way of peering in at the shadow. Maybe you say to yourself, "Well, others shine so brightly. Why should I even try?" Some people may appear to shine bright by trying to diminish the light of others, but that's not real sunlight. Real sunlight is generous and magnanimous. Unlike artificial light, sunlight uses all of the colors of the spectrum. There's simply no bounces off different objects, it is called diffused light. When diffused light bounces into shadowy areas, it lightens the shadow. You can think of the planets in the chart as being the objects that bounce around the light of the sun and moon, diffusing the light, which can then land in some shadowy parts and help to bring certain psychological issues to light.
Oh.
Since the shadow is everything that is not us, we often project it onto others.
You suck.
Thinking about how people irritate us, or who we are jealous of, or who we overly worship, can put us face to face with our dark side too. Shadows are produced due to the absorption of light. Dark objects absorb photons, which is why football players put black lines under their eyes, and why wearing black in the summer makes us hotter. The light is absorbed. Shadows are an absence of light. An absence, like silence. Saturn is like a silence, and its lessons are vast and found anywhere you choose to look at where the archetype lives. In the body, Saturn rules the bones. Imagine your body without bones. What would you be? A pile of jello on the floor, with no structure to your body, no integrity to its parts, no healthy boundaries. Interestingly enough, bones gain in density until a person turns 30. Then they start to decline unless you get enough exercise, calcium, and vitamin D. Saturn's orbit is an average of 29.5 years. So that 30-year-old person would be experiencing their first Saturn return, which is when Saturn makes its way in transit back to its original place in the birth chart. This marks a time of claiming the responsibility of adulthood. Now you're going to have to schedule in a daily walk to keep those bones healthy. When bones are broken, the damaged surfaces knit together to form new bone. Often, the new bone is even stronger, which gives testimony to Saturn's ability to turn limits and perceived failures into strength. Bone is living tissue. Collagen constantly replenishes itself every 7 years, blessing us with a brand new skeleton. 7 years is a quarter of the Saturn cycle. The term 7-year itch hints at the ambitious nature of this planet. Saturn is hard like bone, but like the 7-year skeleton, it does promise psychic renewal. The diamond is another Saturn symbol. Diamonds are pure carbon in crystallized form. They are simply lumps of coal that have spent a long time deep down in the darkness of the earth, under immense pressure. Once recovered and polished, they are able to reflect light more brilliantly than any other gem. Plus, they are incredibly durable, a Saturn trait. Saturn is the old goat, as goats relate to Capricorn. The randy Greek god Pan is part man and part goat. He is the god of the wild, part man and part beast. This is a shade of what Prophet Zarathustra called the beast within, aka one's Mr. Hyde. Goats are worldly, ambitious creatures. as well as devils. In Faust, the goat would be Faust and Mephistopheles. Goats are masters of their own worlds. For one, they have rectangular pupils. Their vision sees up to 340 degrees. That's nearly a full circle. Humans can, at best, see up to 210 degrees. If you've never looked at the bizarre shape of a goat's pupil, do it. It's pretty nuts.
Oh my god.
Goats are not grazers, they are foragers. They are built to scale great heights of hills in order to find choice bits of nourishment. A Saturn person aims to be a master of his own world, but as a human, this takes more than finding choice bits of food and having panoramic vision. As a human, we have to take responsibility for ourselves, our whole selves. By doing this, we don't let our wild emotions control us, and we don't blame everyone around us or our emotional pain or perceived shortcomings. The healthy Saturn is one who can endure and rely on their inner strength and integrity. The Saturn person is always in the process of developing. Just like the diamond, the climate of darkness and pressure makes them stronger and more brilliant at reflecting their true light. Rosa Parks has very strong Saturn signatures in her chart. She is an Aquarius with a Capricorn moon, and her Saturn is in solid and steadfast Taurus. Her famous refusal in 1955 to not give up her seat to a white passenger after the whites-only section was filled illustrates the beauty of Saturn's strength and its moral integrity. She carried this out in true, firm, non-budging Taurian grace. Anne Frank is a Gemini with Saturn opposite her sun in Sagittarius. It's very easy to see how her optimism, Sagittarius, might be wildly limited, Saturn, but instead, she turned her lead into gold. She allowed her Gemini sun to shine bold, writing down her thoughts, fears, and dreams into her diary for 2 years while in hiding from the Nazis. Sean Connery has Saturn in Capricorn right on his ascendant. Here we see the brilliance of the cool-headed Saturn, his feathers never ruffled. Sharpness of style, minimal amounts of emotion, cool and controlled, shaken, not stirred. In closing, think of times when you were horrified by your own Mr. Hyde. And ask yourself, who was that? And are they still at work somewhere beneath the surface? Denying your shadow makes it stronger. Think of the pasty, anemic look of Darth Vader when they pull off his helmet, where no light could penetrate. Allow the light of your awareness to bring the much-needed love and acceptance to your shadow, and rejoice in your wholeness of imperfection. In this way, we become masters of our own world. Until next time, happy astro pondering.